your virtual speaking skills. In essence, if we're going to be effective as virtual speakers, programmers, and do incredible events, we also going to be effective as virtual speakers. Now, again, this is what I do for a living. But the reason why this is so important is because not only is there a difference between in-person speaking and virtual speaking, watch this, but there's certain skill sets that are more important and necessary in a virtual presentation versus an in-person presentation. In essence, anytime you're a virtual speaker or anytime you're doing a virtual event or you're virtually presenting, not only is there going to be a huge difference between the in-person or virtual experience, as we all know, but there's certain things that are more effective in a virtual space that may not be as effective in an in-person state, and there's things that are effective in an in-person state that may not be effective as in a virtual space. In essence, anytime I do a virtual presentation, not only do I have to make sure that I have my public speaking skills up to par, but I gotta remind myself there's unique differences and there's certain things that I put more of an emphasis on in a virtual space that I may not always have to think about when it comes to in person. For instance, I gotta develop my own energy. When I'm doing a virtual presentation, there's nobody here. There's no energy. I'm in an empty room. And I just gotta bring the energy. And I've realized that you even gotta bring more energy virtually than you do in person. The second thing is I'm not looking at the audience. I gotta look directly into the camera. My eye connection is the camera. My eye connection when I'm in a Zoom meeting are the people. So I gotta use eye connection. I gotta identify people. I gotta read my room from the screen. Another thing I gotta think about is time management. Man, time is different when you're doing virtual versus in person. The time management plays an impact. Even the way you tell a story. The way I tell a story virtually may be different from the way I tell a story in person. The use of music, the use of video, the use of graphics, even the activities that I use, I may be able to use really well virtually, but not really well in person. In essence, when I'm in person, I can't do breakout rooms. When I'm in person, I probably won't do a Zoom poll. I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm able to do here that's effective that I may not be able to do when I'm in person. And so as an effective communicator, not only do I gotta understand the difference, but I gotta understand what modifications and what changes I need to make in order to be more impactful as a speaker as it relates to virtual events and virtual programs. And it's one of the reasons I love this quote by my good friend Stan Pearson. This is what he says. He says, virtual programs are not boring. I'll say it again. Virtual programs are not boring. What's boring is speakers who have not learned how to effectively engage and motivate and impact the lives of others through virtual spaces like Netflix, like YouTube, and like so many other video streaming platforms. In essence, when I deal with virtual programming and people say, well, they're boring and people are sick of them and they're having this Zoom burnout, I understand it. The Zoom burnout can be real. It can be, I get it. But it's not because of the technology. A lot of times it's because of the way we present. It's because of the way we engage. It's because of the way we curate our events. And the reason I know this is true is because the same people that would tell you I have Zoom burnout will sit there and watch Netflix videos, watch YouTube videos, watch TEDx videos, listen to podcasts, and a variety of other things in the same stream from a smaller phone all day long. You say, how do you know? My son, he's 5 years old. He will sit there for 2 hours watching videos on the screen. So it's not necessarily that virtual programming is boring. It's more so, what can we do as speakers, as programmers, in order to ensure that people are not bored and can have the same experience as those that are watching Netflix, TEDx videos, and a variety of other videos as well. And I learned this at a creator of the Circle of Change Leadership Conference. As I shared with you earlier, each year we do this national conference that brings students from all across the country and prepares them for career leadership success. We're doing it in person in LA and New York, but because of COVID-19, we went virtual. And since COVID-19, we did a virtual student success conference, we did a career leadership conference, and we did a first generation career conference. And throughout these experiences, one of the things I had the opportunity to do was not only host a variety of panels, but I was also able to see a lot of speakers. There's two speakers that really stood out to me that I want to share with you today. Speaker one had great content. I mean, great content. Didn't use a PowerPoint. No, use a PowerPoint, integrated chat, answer questions. It was great. It was amazing. But then I had another speaker. This speaker was a little bit different. By the way, they didn't use a PowerPoint. They just had great content. They integrated the chat box. They had a powerful storytelling experience. They had activities. They engaged the audience. They talked to the audience. They had high energy. They had music in the beginning. And by the end of these presentations, both were effective. But guess which one people were crying? Guess which ones people were coming up to me saying, that speaker was amazing. Guess which ones were saying, that speaker changed my life? It was speaker number two. Why? Because speaker number two not only provided good content, not only had a great message, but they incorporated the other skill sets of virtual programming that can enhance and make a huge difference. Say, Dr. J, why are you saying that? I'm saying that because we can have a great message, and we can have a great Zoom lecture, and we can have a great Zoom presentation. But if you really want to impact, if you really want to transpire, if you want to really take things to the next level, then I think it's important that we consider, how can we elevate our skill sets? How can we make things better? How can we go above and beyond? What can we do to ensure that our presentations are not just good, but they're great and they're life-changing? This is the question that I gotta ask myself every day. And this is why every day I'm asking myself, how can I get better? How can I be more effective? Because what I've discovered is this: if I'm gonna be a quality virtual programmer and a quality virtual speaker, I can't just have a Zoom lecture. It's cool, it's good, but again, there's so much more that we can do to be that much more impactful and ensure that our students or professionals are not saying, this is another boring Zoom presentation. So here's the how. How do you do that? Well, let me give you 3 steps that I've learned. Number 1, you got to determine what skill sets do you need to develop in order to become more effective at your virtual presentations. What things do I need to incorporate? What things do I need to do? Number 2, you got to identify how you plan to incorporate and improve in that area. How do you plan to improve this skill set? How do you plan to grow in this area? And then number 3, you got to assess, modify, and get better. In essence, you got to assess, modify, and figure out, how can I get better? See, if I had time, I would show you my journey. And I wish I would include in this presentation, because my virtual journey was very interesting. Literally, when I began as a virtual speaker, matter of fact, let me see if it's on my PowerPoint, because I want to show you. Do I have it? Oh, here it goes. So I'm going to show, here it goes. So when I began as a virtual speaker, this is what I started with. You see a green screen, you see some lights, you see a laptop, and it was good, but I wanted to get better. So then I increased. I got 2 laptops, I got another screen, I got a camera, and it got better. But I said, I want to get better. And so they added 2 screens and added 2 laptops, because I realized the ability to see different screens, incorporate certain technologies, enable me to be that much more effective as a virtual speaker. They said, I want to get better. And so we did a conference. And this is our virtual studio. We literally had a virtual studio. And it's one of the reasons why Our virtual programs have been impactful. It's why lives have been changed. It's why students have been impacted, because me and my leadership team have made up in our minds, we're not going to stay stagnant. We're not going to get comfortable. We're going to keep asking ourselves a simple question. What can we do to get better and better with our virtual presentations and our virtual events?